You know how in modern movies, right before the climax, the soundtrack drops into this unrelenting rhythmic drum beat?
Oh yeah, it totally builds all that physical tension.
Exactly. It is not just noise, you know. It is like a physical weight in your chest.
Right, it forces you to anticipate something massive. It is completely visceral.
Well, like 3,000 years ago, an ancient poet actually achieved that exact same cinematic trick using only words. So today we are diving into Psalm 29 from the English Standard Version of the Bible.
Yeah, it is a highly visual and incredibly intense text. Our mission here is to dissect how it uses raw elemental imagery to describe absolute divine power,
Right, starting right at the top with a call for heavenly beings to ascribe glory to the Lord.
which sets up this massive cosmic scale before, immediately dropping us straight onto Earth.
And it plunges you right into a violently shifting landscape.
Mm.
The drumbeat here is the phrase, the voice of the Lord.
Yeah, it repeats over and over.
It acts less like a spoken sound and more like a physical shockwave, right? It thunders over waters and flashes flames of fire.
And it shakes the wilderness of Kadesh.
Yeah, it even says it makes massive geographical features like the mountains of Lebanon and Syrian skip like a calf.
Or a young wild ox. The causality here maps the abstract concept of divine authority onto the terrifying experience of a massive Levantine storm.
Wait, a voice breaking giant cedar trees? That feels wild to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that feels more like a physical shockwave or a massive hurricane rather than just spoken words. Is the poem describing a literal physical storm moving across the landscape?
Well, it is like a massive weather system rolling in off the eastern Mediterranean Sea and tearing across the ancient Near Eastern landscape. The voice is the mechanism here.
Okay, so by equating a spoken word with a cedar-shattering storm, the text argues that supreme power does not need physical hands.
Right. It does not need hands to dismantle the world, just an utterance.
Oh, wow. But the imagery is so intense it actually creates a fascinating problem for modern translators.
Oh, absolutely. You can see it hiding right in the text's footnotes.
Yeah, like verse 9 says, the voice makes the deer give birth and strips the forests bare.
But then you look at the footnote.
Right, I noticed a footnote saying that exact same line can be translated as makes the oaks to shake.
Which is a huge difference.
I mean, going from startling a pregnant deer into early labor to uprooting giant oak trees is a massive swing in meaning.
It really is.
It reminds me of reading a sentence in English where someone stripped out all the vowels. Like if you just see the letters B and D, you have to guess from context if they mean bad, bed, bid, or bud.
That is the exact mechanism at play here. Ancient Hebrew was written primarily as a consonantal text.
So, mostly just consonants.
Exactly. The vowels were spoken, sure, but not recorded until centuries later. So translators today have to deduce those missing vowel sounds based on the surrounding context.
And if they get it wrong.
Well, if they revocalize the word, guessing different vowels between the original consonants, the meaning shifts entirely.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you see similar alternative readings throughout the footnotes, like translating a phrase as heavenly beings versus sons of might.
Or worshiping in the splendor of holiness versus holy attire.
Right. But whether it is inducing labor in wildlife or shaking sturdy oaks to their roots, the underlying biological and environmental logic remains the same.
Because this power penetrates every single layer of the natural order.
Exactly. Which brings us to the psychological need to contain all that uncontrollable chaos.
Right, because after detailing all this earth-shattering power that strips forests bare, the text does this sudden pivot in the final verses.
It resolves with the Lord sitting enthroned over the flood as king forever.
And the final takeaway in verse 11 is surprisingly gentle, right? Like giving strength to his people and blessing them with peace.
Yeah, it is a massive contrast.
Building up all this destructive, fiery energy, just to end on the word peace, is serious emotional whiplash. Why structure it that way for the reader?
Well, peace without power is just fragility. Ancient texts frequently use these massive structural contrasts.
So you can't actually feel truly safe unless the entity protecting you is stronger than the most terrifying forces of nature.
Exactly. The logic is that true, enduring peace can only be guaranteed by a force capable of subduing absolute chaos.
Which is represented here by the flood in the wilderness.
Right. Demonstrating the terrifying power first makes the resolution into ultimate calm feel earned.
It is that cinematic contrast again.
Completely.
The unrelenting drumbeat of the storm suddenly drops out, leaving absolute silence. It really evokes an emotional response that forces you to rethink what security actually looks like when situated right next to overwhelming force.
And it is a structural trick that remains highly effective for you thousands of years later.
Which leaves us with a fascinating question to ponder. If this ancient poem conceptualizes supreme power as a voice that shatters cedars but ultimately brings peace, how do we conceptualize ultimate power today? What would a modern version of Psalm 29 look like in our world, and what would be the unrelenting drumbeat building the tension?